Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quentin Q. Crisco, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
There is no rest for the wicked after a victory on Sunday, as the Bears are back in action on Black Friday. A short week, another contest with a team from the state of Pennsylvania, albeit feeling like another country on the east side, against the Philadelphia Eagles. I am Ron Luce, joined this evening by Samir Patel and Brendan Shagru. Brendan, I'm not going to lie to you. I always panic saying your last name because I never want to mess it up. So I hope I did you proud. We are without Quentin Crisco. He is traveling for the holidays. So we are with all of you this evening, previewing a little Black Friday matchup between the Bears and the Eagles. This is a good one. Lots at stake. Gentlemen, before we get into the X's and O's of this game, how are you guys doing? And happy early Thanksgiving to you both.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Ron, Samir. Just one of the best weeks of the year. And it's great because I feel like I've said it the last few weeks, but usually at this time of year, we're starting to tune the Bears out. And it's kind of background noise as we start thinking about the offseason, or maybe we're paying attention to our families a little bit more. But not this year. This year, it is so exciting that the Bears are continuing to be in first place for 2 weeks in a row. And just having this matchup in front of us is so exciting. I think back, I tweeted out earlier this year, I just remember 15 years ago, and I know this is going to date me, being in college for the Bears-Eagles 2010 game right after Thanksgiving, coming back from Thanksgiving break. And that was the moment where the Bears went from pretenders to contenders. The same thing can happen this week. It's super exciting.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys as well. Always happy to be on. Same thing. Same sentiments, Brendan. Just really looking forward to this matchup. I'm very surprised by the line, and I'm sure we'll get into it on how Vegas thinks the Bears are going to do. But gosh, going back a year ago, my thought was like, let's just please not embarrass ourselves on a national stage here on Thanksgiving. That's all I asked for. And then what happened? We embarrassed ourselves on a national stage. So I don't have those feelings this year. This year I'm with Brendan. I'm like, hey, let's go show everybody what we've been seeing, on the national stage, because I don't think that buy-in is there quite yet, from national media or the talking heads. If you pay attention to any of that stuff, it's still a lot of who have they beaten? Who have they beaten? Well, yes, they won, but Caleb's doing good, but and I'm really anxious to let's see what we got. Let's show everybody what we got. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Friday.
Yeah. And gentlemen, I think I share in your sentiments. I really think that it's, there's a level of adjustment here. I've spoken about this with some close friends of mine. I know Q and I have discussed this on a few shows. Samir, we've talked about this before here too. Just over the last few weeks, it's such an odd adjustment of the Bears are down late in a game and not panicking or being like, it's over. And there's this weird adjustment that's having to happen amongst all Bears fans, not just us here at Bears on Tap, where you gotta wow, is this what it's like to root for a good football team? I'm not used to this. To your point, Brendan, I think you put it perfectly. Normally the Bears are starting to become background noise. You're more worried about your fantasy league playoffs than you are the actual playoffs. That's what it kind of life has been as a Bears fan, especially for the last, 7, 8, 9 years. It feels like, really outside of that 2018 season, even when they were kind of hanging around in that weird 2020 year, but not this year. Not this year. And depending on what parts of Bears and Eagles fandom you cross, this is almost a somber matchup for these two franchises, because they've kind of been each other's allies over the course of the start of this year. Bears taking care of NFC East opponents, the Eagles taking care of NFC North opponents. So now one of them, I saw the Wesley Snipes meme with the tears and the gun, and I thought that was kind of funny as part of this matchup of I don't want to do it, but I'm going to have to. Somebody's going to win. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of fun. Gentlemen, I know we've kind of shared some of our initial thoughts here, but I want to turn to both of you once again here. What just right off the jumps out at you about this game? What is something maybe you're concerned about? Maybe something you're looking most forward to? What is at the forefront of your thoughts about Friday's game?
Well, I'll start first. I think the thing that has me juiced up is the chess match between two of the top coaches in this league. You're talking about Ben Johnson on the offense, Vic Fangio, Uncle Vic, like we know, Vic Fangio on the defense. Just these two guys with the personnel that they have, they're able to get the most out of them. We know that the Bears have a top 10 offense in pretty much every metric, which is still insane to say. Like, it feels illegal to say that. But the Eagles as well on defense, like Vic Fangio is getting the most out of his personnel as well. And he's gotten it done with not even like sending a ton of pressure. We all know just the interior of the line, the linebackers they have, the talented young cornerbacks and safeties. I just think with the X's and O's, it's going to be very interesting to see how this matchup goes. And I frankly, I'm a little scared because we know Vic Fangio has gotten the best of different offensive geniuses before. I think of Sean McVay. You know how that situation went. And the Eagles obviously are a great team this year, but just from the adjustments to the ways that the Bears are going to attack the Eagles and how the Eagles are going to counterpunch, that chess matchup has me really excited.
Yeah, I'm with Brendan on this. I think the strength on strength is offense. Bears offense, Eagles defense. Typically, when you think of this Eagles team, when you start naming good players on the Eagles team, you probably name 3 offensive players before you even get to a defensive player. And it's not really necessarily the case. At least that's not how they've been playing so far. So I am kind of excited to see how the Bears do against this offense. And I think they've been primed the last couple of weeks because Flores, then you got the Steelers defense, and now you got the Eagles defense. They're tested. I mean, they've gone up against these fronts and these defensive masterminds. Flores threw everything he had at Caleb, and the Bears came out on top. The Steelers defense, I mean, I know they've taken some punches this year, but they got names on that side of the ball. And so I'm excited to see, can that momentum carry over? Can Caleb have another game against a top-tier defense? And we didn't even mention Zach Bond, right? I mean, he's balling out there in the middle of the field, kind of that field general for those guys. Jalen Phillips, their new acquisition, is going to be a handful too. So I'm really excited about it. I think the Bears I think Ben Johnson's going to have those guys ready to go.
Gentlemen, I agree. Just to kind of, add on to what you guys are saying here. This is a very interesting defense and has been for the Eagles, right? Consistently hitting on key draft picks. Howie Roseman, a Florida Gator through and through, having to bite his tongue and cross his fingers when he picks Georgia Bulldogs to load up his defense. But that's just kind of been the nature of the beast. And their offense has been, quote, sputtering maybe a little bit compared to what we're used to. Saquon Barkley, not nearly as effective this year. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown aren't as maybe dynamic as they've historically been. And they might be without a few of those guys. Devontae Smith would have been considered inactive today at practice. It was a walkthrough. So again, all estimates. And Saquon Barkley would have been considered limited. So these are things too that are going to be keeping an eye on as the week goes on, where you kind of have some of those back and forths when it's all said and done. Some love from the comment section here. Daniel Berry Sports. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday indeed. My dad jumping in the comments. Hi, Dad. Linebacker play for the Bears is something that he's looking forward to. And he says DA not so bad himself as we talk about some of these.
Good point.
I completely agree. And great love here from Chris Jensen. He says, I'm glad my algorithm brought me to your stream. Good show. Thank you so much for tuning in
us
with
as
us.
well, Chris.
Guys, I'll tell you what, I am most excited about, and this feels like I'm checking, making sure everything's still in the right places here. The Bears offensive line against the Eagles defensive line. And I never thought I would say that in a million years, because this Bears offensive line has been kind of putrid for a number of years. And it would be looking at this as oh shit, this is where the game's going to go to hell because of what the Eagles have on defense. Rather, I'm sitting here looking at this and going, this is going to be a hell of a matchup. The O-line show next week with Q is going to be electric. I'm already looking forward to the All-22 film, and we're over a week away from that. Because of this battle up front, you look at just the names on both sides of the football. Smear, you mentioned a few of those names. Guys like Phillips, guys like Carter, guys like Davis, against a future Hall of Famer, a few Pro Bowl guards and centers, a young tackle who had a great game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ozzie Trapillo. Theo Benedict was a full participant, though. So how does that work out coming into this week in terms of matchups and things like that? And then, of course, Darnell Wright, who is arguably playing at an all-pro level this year. This is going to be a fascinating matchup, and I can't wait to watch it. And actually, we might be in luck, guys, because it is the Amazon Prime game, technically, on Black Friday, which means we get the all 22 version of watching this game.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I know where I'm watching.
Oh my
That's the
gosh.
view I'm watching. I don't need to see the broadcast view. Quite frankly, I don't give a damn. I am watching the trenches and the trenches only, because that's going to be fascinating to see when
That's cool.
all said.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Good point.
Pretty excited
Good
about
point.
that. Pretty excited about
Yeah.
that. But guys,
This is going to be.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is going to be the best Black Friday game that the NFL's put on so far. I know it's only the third one, but it's really cool to say, like, they got it right putting these two teams together. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. It's nice that this game's going to finally be good, right? I remember last year's game, everybody kind of at the matchup, and the year before was kind of the same way. What are we doing? At least this year now, this is a matchup everybody's going to be dialed in. I'm betting, Brendan, that the viewership numbers are going to be the highest for this one, especially
I
because
totally agree.
two of the top dogs in the NFC. There is seeding positioning battles already happening now on the schedule here with this matchup. It's going to be really fun to watch. Gentlemen, let's get into our yes, exactly. Big markets indeed. Let's get into our habituals here. We have the Eagles layout, as you see above. I don't know if I do it as eloquently as Q, but I think we need to get into our first segment.
The baddest man.
Gentlemen, looking at the full board here, we'll start with the Eagles in this matchup. Who is your baddest man on the Eagles? Either side of the football, who scares the shit out of you when you go to bed on Thursday night thinking about this game on Friday afternoon? Samir, let's start with you this time. Who's your baddest man for the Eagles?
Yeah, so, this is a little hard because the game's on Friday. There was a walkthrough today, so both sides have guys that are kind of in and out of the lineup. Not really sure who's playing, so I'm going to make some assumptions here, and don't hold me to it because we're doing this on a Tuesday. But I went with Devontae Smith. He has kind of emerged as the big play receiver for the Eagles. He is an elite route runner, and I think that if we go into this game with the same lineup we had against the Steelers, I'm looking at worst case. Worst case would be Nick McLeod here now is going to be guarding Devontae Smith, because I'm sure they're going to want Nahshon Wright's length on A.J. Brown, which makes sense. Brown is still a lot bigger than Wright, probably can outmuscle him, but I don't know. The last few weeks, I know I've been hard on Brown. He's been my nicest man before, but dude, that dude's growing on me. I'm rooting for him. I'm excited to see him out on the field actually now. But McLeod still gives me pause, and I think that is a matchup that, the Eagles don't chuck it a lot, but if one guy's going to burn you deep, it's going to be Devontae Smith, and if one guy in the Bears is going to allow that burn deep, it's going to be Nick McLeod. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. And I know there's some assumptions being made there, no Jalen, no Kyler, no Tyreek, but that's kind of where my head's at.
Definitely. Certainly a scary player on their offense, nonetheless. Brendan, who's your baddest man for these Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, initially I was going to say Vic Fangio, but just because of what I said before, but in the sense of, to keep things interesting, I'll go a different direction. I still, even though he is not having a good season for whatever reason, Saquon Barkley still scares the crap out of me, especially knowing that the Bears linebackers are most likely going to be out. I mean, we know Tremaine Edmonds is on injured reserve. Noah Sewell didn't practice today. TJ Edwards also didn't practice today, even though Brad Biggs kind of dropped some hints that maybe he could be coming back. Still, with the linebackers being so decimated, we saw what the Steelers' run game could do with the guy likes of Kenneth Gainwell, of all people, former Eagle, by the way, and Jaylen Warren. Knowing what Saquon Barkley is capable of, And I know the run game just needs to get its stuff together with that team. It still scares me with what he can do. So I just don't think we should be discounting the type of player Saquon Barkley is. He's had good games against the Bears in the past. And I just think with how the linebacker position is looking, it still could be a big day for 26.
Well, even if he's not running the ball effectively, I think last game he had like 50 yards receiving out of the backfield, so he can get you there too. And if your linebacking core is depleted, you've got an injured Hippolyte or Amen trying to keep up with Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. He'll hurt you in that respect too.
Absolutely, a matchup nightmare for a depleted linebacking core for sure is Saquon Barkley. Gentlemen, there's a lot of good answers. Like, this Philadelphia team is still good. I know a lot of people are, I think, discounting them a little bit this year because they haven't been as strong as they've been over the last few seasons. But I still look around this team, and you got players like Bond and Mailata, and not having Elaine Johnson this week is really going to be something interesting for this Eagles offensive line. But from center to left tackle, that group is fantastic. Jalen Hurts, I think, gets poo-pooed on a lot for kind of no reason. I mean, the guy wins, and he does things at a high level and has constantly had new OCs no matter where he goes, from college to the pros, and still somehow some way finds a way to get it done. But when I look at this Bears offensive line, and on the interior, I look at two guys that are a little smaller in Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman, coupled with your big bear in Jonah Jackson. Jordan Davis can be a bad man. Really, either one of the D tackles, Carter included.
Yeah.
Because those two are disruptors in the middle of that defense. And if the Bears can't generate movement, again, we know how much Ben Johnson loves to run the football. They're not able to get movement on Big Jordan Davis or on Jalen Carter. It's going to be a long day for that Bears run game, and it's going to fall largely then on Caleb to will this team to victory through the air, because they're just not going to be able to move the ball effectively. And then you got to deal with the likes of Mitchell and DeJean and Blankenship. And yeah, you are missing Makuba now due to injury. He's gone for the rest of the year, so maybe that's a little bit of a break. This is still a really strong secondary that you will have to deal with then. Ball. And again, we've touched a little bit on their linebacking core. Bond, Kobe Dean, you have Campbell back there as well, who's a freakish athletic backer. I mean, they really can stack up against the Bears well if the Bears aren't able to run the football. So those two D tackles for me are really my baddest men selections. Gentlemen, I'm going to take this down really quick so we don't make anybody nauseous as we flip to the next one here. We'll bring it right back up. We'll stick with our baddest men, and this time we're going to talk about our Chicago Bears. Given this matchup, how we're feeling, how things went a week ago. Again, Trapillo is on here. It could be Theo Benedict, depending on how things shake out this week. Brendan, I want to start with you here. Who's the baddest man on the Chicago Bears for this matchup with the Eagles?
Guys, I don't know if a player is playing better than Montez Sweat right now. Montez Sweat is finally playing like the guy that the Bears paid a couple years ago and earning the highest paycheck on the team at $25 million per year. So somebody asked me the other day, like, are you impressed by him? I'm like, I'm not impressed. I'm just happy that he's doing what he's finally supposed to do. And that is he's being paid to be a bad man. But since week 6, and this is a week after the bye week, I know Ben Johnson likes to say, since the bye, he's been playing well. It's been even later than that. Sweat has totaled 6.5 tackles, 9 QB hits, 8 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 pass breakups. He nearly had another sack on Mason Rudolph. He had 2 on Sunday, could have had 3. Just with the way that he's playing and knowing the matchup that we'll get to in a little bit at right tackle, I just think he is just the baddest guy on the football field right now. He's playing with a lot of confidence. I think part of the maybe adjustment period of learning a new system, getting used to the terminology, and being asked, being comfortable what he's being asked to do, and also the return of Grady Jarrett has helped a lot as well. So Montez Sweat is playing phenomenal football right now, and I think he's got a great matchup on Friday.
Definitely. Samir?
Yeah, totally agree on Montez Sweat, and you just talked about the matchup. It should be a game that he needs to be a bad man. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. I'm going to go with maybe a Brendan fan favorite here with Luther Burden. I think Luther Burden is going to have a breakout game. I think he is just so close to ripping just the lid off of this team. Pickens feasted on this Eagles secondary last week. I think Burden can do a lot of the same. I know he's more of a yak guy than Pickens, but he can go deep and he can burn you like Pickens can. And I just think he's due. Caleb, that trust is getting there. I think after Loveland, he probably trusts Burden after that, just based on what we've seen from a catches per target kind of situation there. So I'm going to go with Luther Burden. I think like you said, Ron, earlier, I think they're going to have to air it out a little bit. And I think Burden's going to be the beneficiary of that.
I think those are both great selections. Montez Sweat playing incredible football. Luther Burden really starting to I think, come into his own as that slot receiver in this Ben Johnson offense. Samir, you just casually glanced over my baddest man, so I'm going to go right back to him. I think in a week where the athleticism on the other side of the ball is top notch, you were taken with the number 10 overall pick in the draft.
Yeah.
It's Colston Loveland's week to be a bad man. And I think he's a guy that can absolutely give this Eagles team fits. Yeah, I think the Cowboys have great weapons. Obviously, they have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, but I would probably take Loveland over Ferguson in terms of just raw traits and what he brings to the table. I think I would take Luther Burden over whatever you want to call the Cowboys' third receiver. I think the Bears are just deeper in terms of playmakers. So the Eagles are going to have to kind of pick and choose who they want to target. I think they're going to be willing to try and let Bond or Campbell or one of these other guys run one-on-one against Loveland. And if that's the case, I think Loveland's got a chance to be really important in this game and maybe have kind of one of those, staple games like we saw him have against Cincinnati, where he's a 100+ yard player, maybe a touchdown or two when it's all said and done, because they're going to need somebody to step up big. And I really do believe that, he's the guy that can do that for this Bears team. Gentlemen, we'll stay with the Bears, but we'll flip the script.
The nicest man.
All right. Who's opening the door? Who's letting the top off? Who scares you most on this Bears team? And just like we flipped the script with our man choices, we're going to flip the script here with who goes first. So, Samir, I'll turn it over to you.
All right.
Your nicest man.
So my nicest man is whoever's going to be playing left tackle, whether it is Ozzie or Theo. I think both of them are going to have their hands full. Excuse me. Theo, because of his obvious pass pro kind of struggles that he's had this season. But let's just assume it's Ozzie. So Ozzie played pretty well against Pitt. Not an easy task. I mean, Highsmith was out, so that does help. Now he gets a different test here. He's got Jalen Phillips probably coming at him, but it's those defensive tackles. I don't know how much Tooney is going to be able to help. He's going to have his hands full with Davis or, Carter. It's going to be a lot of Ozzie, maybe one-on-one. And how is he going to do? Also, you're not at home now. You're in Philly. And I don't know if you've ever gone to a game in Philly. I have. It is raucous. And I think the cadence, maybe some false starts. I don't know. I'm hoping it doesn't happen because, we didn't hear Ozzie's name at all during that home game against Pittsburgh. That's great. I'm worried we might hear his name a couple times because it is going to be a big spot, big moment, good defense, raucous crowd. I can see Ozzie having to do a couple one-on-ones just because Tooney's going to have his hands full. So hopefully Ben's got a plan for that.
Well said. Brendan, who do you have?
That's a really good point, Samir. Just not only, the play, but the pre-snap penalties, which we know have been an issue. And just, it's a good thing to look out for.
Yep.
Oh boy. I'm torn between two. I'll just use this as an honorable mention. If Ron, you want to take it and expand on it. The cornerback situation is going to be very interesting this week because we think Jalen Johnson's coming back. Then what happens with Nashawn Wright, Tyreek Stevenson? I think there's potential matchup issues there. But for this exercise, I'm going to go Austin Booker. Austin Booker had a good first couple games back. He was decent against the Vikings, didn't really show up too much against the Steelers. And again, playing the matchup game, I think he's just a really bad matchup for Jordan Mailata. I think this is going to be a game where he could get completely stonewalled and not be a factor. I just don't think he's got it in him right now, unfortunately. Not that he's a bad player by any means. I think he's progressing well, but this is a game where I just think we're going to look back and say, was Austin Booker in this game at all? And maybe look at the box score and be like, oh, there's one assist. Okay, well, that's about it.
Yeah, Brendan, I'll tell you what, it's funny. It feels like the easy way to go is corner here. I was actually going to go Austin Booker. So that's incredible.
Oh, man.
We're on the same page. But I think you brought up a great point, and for the exact same reason that I had. I think Jordan Mailata is going to completely nullify him. It's going to become a one-man game on the edge, and it's going to be up completely to Montez Sweat, which is why I think him as the baddest man selection is incredibly important. But I will go ahead and focus on this cornerback room because I think maybe not so much the nicest man. I just think it's fascinating because we don't know who the hell is going to play on Friday. Yeah. There's tons of speculation that Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson are going to be activated for this game, which if that's the case, how much rust are they going to have to shake off? Mm-hmm. Do you still like maybe a Nashawn Wright against A.J. Brown a little bit and then matching up Kyler Gordon against Smith where then Jalen Johnson can kind of have an easy way back into this game? How much are you going to use C.J. Gardner-Johnson in this game? Do we even see Tyreek Stevenson healthy and in this game? I think this, room that we're could see as the nicest man, depending on how things shake out, could be one of the baddest of the group. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Another name too that I really look at here, it might be DeAndre Swift's week as well to be the nicest. Mm-hmm. We talked about maybe they're not able to run the football at the same clip. He kind of felt non-existent at times in that Pittsburgh game. Monangai obviously getting some pretty important carries there, but really the Bears' run game as a whole wasn't as dominant, I think, as we've become accustomed to. And a good game plan by Ben Johnson to go ahead and switch gears and utilize what was working against that Steelers team. I think we might see something similar this week. Maybe Monangai being a little more physical is the better back for the matchup in this game as well. And it sucked for DeAndre Swift. He's a former Eagle. He'd love to stick it to them if he could. But I think he's a candidate really here for the nicest man. So I will pick DeAndre Swift, even though I think the quarterback situation is pretty interesting. Samir, what's up?
It's a good point you made about DeAndre Swift and those holes, right? Because those guys are big boys with Davis and Carter. We talked about that. DeAndre Swift, not the best at those running through those one-arm tackles, right? Mm-hmm. One of those guys gets a paw up, I can see Swift not being able to get through it, right? Monangai, much more of a bowling ball, right? I think if he can probably run through a couple of those arm tackles for these big boys better than Swift probably could.
Well, and to build on that, I mean, I wonder how much Ben Johnson trusts Swift because as soon as the fumble happened, you didn't see much of him. He was still in there, but definitely lost out carries to Monangai. And look, nobody's saying that like the Eagles, it's not apples to apples, but the Steelers defensive line with guys like Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, they're maybe not as good, but they're kind of close to what Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter can provide. So it's probably going to be a very similar game plan just because of the fact that you're seeing two similar fronts, at least with how big and disruptive they can be. And if Theo Benedict does play, I mean, that is a better opportunity for run blocking versus what Ozzie Trapillo was able to do. I don't know. It is a very interesting matchup and what's going to happen with kind of the touches and things like that.
Indeed. Going to be fun to see. Have no clue how it's going to work, but we're going to figure that out anyway. Again, to keep people from getting nauseous of the flip of the screen, we will go to the Eagles and our nicest man for the Bears opponent. Brendan, throwing it right back to you, sir. Your nicest man for these Philadelphia Eagles.
I've had this circled for 3 weeks. It's Fred Johnson at right tackle. I mean, it's the easy answer, but look, when you got just a line of dogs, and I know Steen is maybe not, to the same level as, what some of the guys were before, in the last few years as his first year starting, I believe. But look, as soon as Lane Johnson went out, that was a huge I don't want to say godsend because you never want people to get hurt, but it's a big break for the Bears because Fred Johnson, while he's a decent backup tackle, he's just not Lane Johnson. No, not many people are. He has a 54.7 PFF grade. PFF, the whole grading offensive lineman hasn't been the best this year, but I still think it's notable that they have him in the 50s. 9 pressures in 125 pass blocking snaps. He had a really bad penalty this past week. Granted, that was on the road. I just think, this is a spot that's gettable. If you're really trying to, get pressure, Montez Sweat against Fred Johnson, that's where you want to go.
Samir, where are you going here?
I mean, that is an excellent pick, Brendan. And the way where I'm going to go for my nicest man, and I hope I don't regret going in this direction, but I'm going to call him out. I'm going to go with quarterback Jalen Hurts.
Ooh.
I'm going to say this Eagles offense has looked disjointed for more than 1 week. And he's a quarterback that likes to play it safe. He's only had 1 interception on the whole year. He does the safe. Even his deep balls, they just seem uncatchable. And so I think Dennis Allen, his whole motif is, I don't want you to feel safe. I'm going to try to make you uncomfortable. I think he's going to try to make Jalen uncomfortable and take away his safe and be like, no, I want you to take a shot. I want you to do something you don't normally do. And I'm not going to just give you that safe play that you always like to take. So I like DA, just like your dad said, hey, don't dismiss DA, right? Let's not do that. I think Jalen Hurts can be got. I think that Montez Sweat is playing, as Brendan mentioned, out of his mind. And so, yeah, let's rattle him. Let's get him out of his zone. Let's get those guys yelling at each other on the sidelines because they so badly want to. So let's make it happen for them.
Samir, I love that. I think, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And I like taking the shots, maybe the hot takes of sort. This was a little bit earlier from our good friend Scott from Iowa. He said Cooper DeJean is scary. He says with Caleb, sometimes inaccuracy. If he gets his hands on the ball, he's probably taking it to the house. Guys, I don't know about you. Samir, this one's kind of for both of us, but bear with.
Bears hot takes.
Have you guys heard the song that Cooper DeJean is not a safety and that he's cornerback 1? Well, guess what? He's my nicest man this week.
Oh,
wait,
go.
Samir.
Scott from Iowa.
Luther Burden is out here to set a statement, and if he's going to do so, he's going to have to torture Cooper DeJean on Friday. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and say Cooper DeJean is my nicest man. I want to see you one-on-one against Luther Burden in the slot, because the more and more Luther Burden comes along, the more and more people look at that 39th overall pick and say, how the hell did the Bears get that guy there? And I hope that continues. Cooper DeJean was considered a steal in his draft class coming out in the early second round. I think Luther Burden is too. And if we got them one-on-one, I'm going to take the boy from East St. Louis in Illinois against Cooper DeJean. So he is my nicest man pick. Is my
love it, Ron.
Let's go to the floor. I'm excited. I'm ready for
Fired me up, man.
That big
you
game.
Fired me up.
I am ready for that big game.
Hey, if he doesn't have, Blankenship playing behind him, we know Makuba's out. Maybe, you can take some more chances like that because you don't have the same help as before. So look, Ron, I think you're tempting fate a little bit, but I like it. I like it.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe.
The hot take circle came out. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I haven't seen that before either.
It's funny. Q teed it up. We've used it once on the post-game show, and I think it's been kind of underutilized. So I
like it.
We had to break that one out. That one's for Q when it's all said and done. But gentlemen, let's get to our final segment here before we start to wind things down.
Keys to victory.
As everybody knows, there's always keys to winning a football game, no matter what those are. And we're going to explore some of those here. As always, each of us will take a shot at a Bears key to victory. I'm getting my little list here teed up and ready to go. Samir, we'll start with you. What is your key to a Bears victory on Friday?
All right, so I got one for the offense and one for the defense. So for the defense, I think we need to stay out of 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts. Tush push, obvious reasons. I feel like if Philly gets a 3rd and 2 or a 4th and 2, you might as well just give them a new set of downs. We can't get into that situation. And Philly's actually outside of that, they're 27th in 3rd down conversions. If you eliminate those tush-push type plays. And the Bears actually have a pretty good third down defense. So I think if you can keep them out of the 3rd and 2s, the 4th and 2s, that's a key to victory on the defense. On the offensive side of the ball, take shots. Take your shots. Philly is 11th in giving up explosive plays, 11th in the NFL, and we know the Bears are 1st in explosive plays. So don't worry about that completion percentage. It's a bullshit stat. Don't let anybody tell you that it's important. Take those shots, keep testing that Philly secondary. Keep torching Cooper DeJean, our nicest man on this show. And I think those are my keys to the game. Caleb's going to need to hit those deep balls to Scott's point, though, in order for this key to materialize.
Most definitely. Brendan, your key to victory.
I like it. I got 2 as well. First off, get off to a fast start. We lauded Ben Johnson for the early, good scripting plays that led to touchdowns and field goals. We haven't seen that the last few weeks. 3 and out against the Vikings. I believe it was 3 and out against the Steelers as well. Get off to a fast start, get a touchdown in the opening drive, which then takes the Philly crowd out of it. Samir, you talked about, we all know how raucous the crowd is, but you seeing it in, up front, up close and personal, definitely, probably changes things. And the Bears haven't played in Philly since 2019. Nobody on that current team has played as a member of the Bears in Philly.
Yeah.
So get the crowd out of it early by getting out to an early lead. And then going into the second half, we know the Bears can come from behind and make those second half adjustments. That's really where things are going to get, potentially, become, what am I trying to say? That's where you can get the win versus losing, because the Eagles just are not a good second half team. They don't make good adjustments. You can look at last week against the Cowboys, obviously blown a 21-point lead, but it's happened throughout the season as well. They've had a lot of teams kind of come back, or they haven't been able to extend their lead, even when they've opened up an early, a big first half lead. So I think for the Bears, they're good at making second half adjustments. That's where you need to capitalize on the Eagles and potentially get a victory there.
Brendan, I love that key to victory. I have a saying, and I've heard it a few different places, but I will repeat it until I'm blue in the face. Good football teams can lead at halftime. Great football teams win the second half. And that's how this Bears team needs to be. I completely agree with you there. I think these are all great takes, gentlemen. I think these are all absolutely keys to victory. My key to victory is pretty simple. And it's maybe a little meatballish, but that's okay. We like meatball. You got to win in the trenches. Bar none, this Eagles team has prided themselves for years and years, hell, probably the better part of a decade, being dominant in the trenches. It's time for the Bears to establish themselves in the NFL. And in a football game, you have to establish yourself in the trenches. If you win in the trenches on both sides of the football, more often than not, you're going to win the football game. And the Bears absolutely need to do that. Montez Sweat, the interior need to be there. Austin Booker's probably going to have a rough day against Jordan Mailata. On the flip side, this Bears O-line, which has been applauded, which has been just such a godsend as a Bears fan to watch and see, needs to show up and show out against a not only talented, but deep front rush from the Eagles. If you win in the trenches, things are going to go well for this Bears team. And I think you factor that in with everything, gentlemen, that you two had to say. And we could be talking about a Bears victory, as Scott from Iowa said here a little bit earlier. Bears only one game up on the Lions, who are currently out of the playoffs. He says, with that said, Bears by 14 on Black Friday.
Love it, Scott.
And hopefully those vibes continue. Gentlemen, I do want to turn it over to each one of you really quick here. Brendan, we can start with you. Just final thoughts here before we look forward to Black Friday football as the Bears take on the Eagles in Philadelphia.
I'll just end it how I said it. This really is the game where you go from a pretender to a contender. Every single person has this game as a loss. But I'll say this for the Eagles as well. This is a teetering game for them. I mean, we know all too well over the last couple of years just what a demoralizing loss like that can do to a team where you lose in such dramatic fashion. And the Eagles did. We know that their coaching is not great right now. We know there's problems in the locker room, on the sidelines. And this is one of those games where it could be a sliding doors moment and things go south if the Bears are able to get a victory. And some people say, oh, the Eagles are playing angry, blah, blah, blah. If anything, that just means they're more likely to explode, especially in front of the home fans. We know how it feels when the home crowd is booing you to death. And that Eagles crowd is ready to go. I know it. So just knowing how well coached the Bears are versus the issues that the Eagles are having, this is a swing game for both organizations. And I think, Samir, I think you mentioned it, the line, for those that don't know, it was 7 last I checked. It's a pretty big number. So
Still
Vegas doesn't think it still is. So the Bears aren't expected to do much. But yeah, I just see this as a game for both organizations where the Bears go from pretenders to contenders. The Eagles can potentially start sliding down. Yeah, we've seen that before with them.
Samir?
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, I am pumped for this game. I don't understand the Vegas line. I think the teams are trending in opposite directions. I think playing at home, as Brendan alluded to, might be worse for the Eagles because that crowd, that first 3 and out after that performance against the Cowboys last week, you start out with a 3 and out or a punt, you might hear some boo birds early. You might see A.J. Brown pull out his book from his library sooner than you'd expect, right? And I think the Bears locker room couldn't be more opposite from the Eagles locker room at this point. And I think those guys are going to be fired up. I think they see the line. I think Ben Johnson's going to coach up the disrespect angle. And I am going to call an upset. And I will also financially back that up too later on when I place my bet. But I think the Bears are going to win. I feel really good about it. 24-21 Bears. I'm calling it.
I'm glad you said your prediction, Samir, because I realized that we were nearly going to miss that. So, Brendan, I'm going to turn it right back to you. So, what's your score prediction here?
I still think the Eagles win. They are the more talented team, and I think sometimes talent does beat out good coaching, even though it's going to be close. But I think the Bears cover. So I'm going to go Eagles 24, Bears 20.
I like it. I like it a lot. I am going to combine, just as you did, Samir, final thoughts with a score prediction here. Seen a lot of chatter. Of course, we know these two fan bases have formed this weird allegiance. First off, that I don't understand. I don't want any part of. I don't want any part of anything that's Philadelphia sports, but that's neither here nor there. This allegiance, though, of you take care of our division, we'll take care of your division, and we'll see each other, and we're going to shake hands after and still love each other. Fuck that. I've seen Eagles fans that are praying that the Bears win so they can fire their offensive coordinator because they're sick and tired of him. You know what I hope that alludes to? Good energy for the Bears. I hope the Eagles root so hard against their own franchise, the Boo Birds, the naysayers, the East Coast hospitality of Philadelphia, and they watch their Eagles piss down their leg and learn who really runs the NFC. You know, Ryan Poles once said that the Bears were going to take the NFC North and never give it back. And they finally got their hands on it. I hope they never give it back. But who wants to stop at the NFC North? Let's go take the NFC and never give it back. And that starts on Friday. Bears win. It's going to be ugly. It's not going to be pretty, but I wouldn't want it any other way. In fact, it's going to let them get back to breaking even in point differential on the season. Bears 23, Eagles 20 in just a barn burner on Friday football.
What a rant. What a rant by Ron, by the one and only Ron. I love it.
It's going to be a good one, gentlemen. I can't wait. I know you guys can't wait as well. We encourage everybody, of course, if you aren't already, follow along with Bears on Tap at Bears on Tap on the socials. Head over to the On Tap Sports at YouTube, like, subscribe, hit that little bell button. You'll know when we go live and all of our other great shows here at the On Tap Sports Network go live. This is your Eagles and Bears preview. I think we all know how we feel. We all want the Bears to win. And let this be the changing of the guard in the NFC. When one empire falls, another must rise. And this is the perfect opportunity. It's going to be Black Friday for a reason, and it's not going to be the Bears' funeral when it's all said and done. And hopefully we see a win in Philadelphia for our beloved Chicago Bears. Gentlemen, this was a pleasure. Ron Luce, Samir Patel, Brendan Shagru. We'll be back with a post-game show probably on Friday featuring Quentin himself as well as the great Sonny Firma. Gentlemen, what do you guys say? Bear down?
Bear down. Let's go.
Bear down.